So I'm so excited. Today on the podcast, we've got the incredible Mel Larkings, who is a nutritionist, naturopath, and a medical herbalist. So very accomplished.
Thank you for having me.
And today I'm very excited to be talking about gut health. I think that gut health, I have learned so much about it over the past few years. And it was always something I was aware of, but just the enormity of how important the gut is in our overall health and well-being is incredible, right?
Yeah, well, it's the foundation of naturopathic medicine for sure, but I also think we still have so much to learn. So it's like, from both worlds.
Yeah.
Everything that we do basically comes back to the gut when we are working naturopathically, even nutritionally to some extent. But yeah, more and more research every day, which is very exciting.
It's incredible, isn't it? When do you think that it started to become more mainstream about gut health?
Yeah, I don't even know if it is still.
Yeah,
I think in the general public, there's people who are becoming more interested and, I have patients now who come and they'll be like, my gut's not been good and then I can't get better from this particular virus or whatever. So I think that that's related. So there's like a little bit.
Small amount of people.
But when it comes to mainstream medicine, I'm not sure that it's 100% there yet beyond take a probiotic after antibiotics, which is, 1/1,000,000th of what you need to do to repair the damage from that. So
it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, like you say, there's probably so much more still to come.
Definitely.
But talk to us first. Like, imagine knowing we're watching this and we don't know about gut health. Talk to us about why it is referred to as the second brain, and what is it about the gut that is such a big thing for our health?
We kind of think of it as the first brain.
Okay, not second. I stand corrected.
It makes more decisions on a daily basis than this guy. And if you don't have the right microbiome, you can't actually synthesize neurotransmitters. So you won't have the neural conductivity, you won't have the neural plasticity, your brain won't be very happy and healthy. So this is almost more important. When your body is created, your gut, your brain are among the first to kind of, as a fetus get made from scratch. Yeah. So that indicates how important it is as well. Wow. And that importance extends across the entire body. It's not just, we think it's like 98% of your immune system. Wow. It's also, like I said, mental health. It's hormone synthesis. It's what we eat. If we can't eat food and digest it and break it down and get nutrients out of it, then we're going to die. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So it's important for so many things.
Yeah, wow, it's fascinating, isn't it? And, you mentioned at the beginning there, microbiome. Now, a lot of people watching this will go, I don't know what that word is. So can you explain what microbiome is?
When I refer to the microbiome, I'm referring to all of the bacteria throughout your digestive system. When we talk about the gut, I think a lot of people think we're talking about the tummy, but we're more so talking about all the intestinal space, which has all these little homes for bugs, essentially. There are a multitude of different bugs, up to maybe thousands of different species.
Good bugs?
Both.
Okay.
And some good bugs can be bad if there's too much, and some bad bugs can be fine if there's not too much. Okay. So, the good and bad thing is also probably simplified. Yeah. If we were to do a microbiome test and it came back with way too much of a good bug, that means that particular strain is taking up too much space in the microbiome. So we need to then introduce other species. So it's about a balance and it's about variety, and we refer to that as richness and diversity. So we want diversity, but we also want the right amount of particular bugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's fascinating, fascinating. So when we talk about having the microbiome balance, are there, and I know the answer to this, but are there certain foods that can unbalance it? And as well as foods, is it stress, lifestyle, hormones?
Absolutely.
Talk to us about what unbalances that microbiome, and then afterwards we'll talk about what balances it.
Yeah, it can be external for sure. So we refer to exogenous kind of influences. So that's environmental, that's medication, anything coming from the outside world. The air we breathe can kill off some of our microbiome, especially if we have the window down while we're driving and we're getting all that pollution. Where I live in Newcastle, we've got a lot of coal pollution. So, breathing that in, heavy industry kind of pollution can do it too.
Yeah, wow.
Drugs, alcohol will have an impact. So anything that's coming in, and that includes our food, which can have negative and positive impacts.
Yeah.
And then we have endogenous kind of stuff. So internal factors that will influence our microbiome, like stress. Stress is probably the biggest.
Really? More than food?
I think it's ubiquitous stress, right? Because people can control their food to some degree. Some of us can't control stress. I mean, most of us can't control stress. We might be able to control the stressors coming in and out, but the way that our body responds is, to some extent, I think, out of our control. There's lots of things you can do, meditation and all that kind of, those tools, but if people have anxiety or depression or something inherent that's not quite right, then that becomes really hard to control. And you can have both mental stress and physical stress. So the physical stress obviously is even harder to control, and that will have a huge impact on our microbiome.
Yeah, wow, it's fascinating. I mean, over the past few years, I have had so much stress.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. I laugh because I'm a positive person, but I've had so much stress. And I do find that when I'm under enormous amount of stress, it has such an impact on my health. And even literally last week, I had a really stressful situation with my little boy, and I had this horrific migraine come on within a day or two, which I believe was a stress-related migraine. And I ended up blacking out, knocking my face, getting a big black eye, and you feel that there's those stress factors do have an impact on us, right? And it is incredible.
And if you take it back to the microbiome, your microbiome would have been heavily affected, and then your hormonal factors would have been changed. And migraines can come from a range of different reasons, but stress and hormones are among the top two. So things would have been a bit out of balance for you.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then when we kind of, I suppose, look at how much stress is in everyone's lives, whether it's through financial, whether it's through work, whether it's through just life, we're all getting more stressed, right? So it's going to have that effect on that microbiome.
Not to
so what can we do?
Freak everyone out.
Yeah, no, but it's true.
But it is true. Yeah.
So what can we do? Because there is, like you said, there's many stresses we cannot control, and our body reacts to them, and our mind probably reacts, worse to stress now than it did when I was younger. Whether that's just because I've kind of reached the point of going no more stress, or whether it's because of my hormones, I don't know. But is there something we can do to strengthen our microbiome so when those stresses are coming at us, that we're more resilient to deal with them, or is it not possible?
No, there's heaps you can do. Okay. Heaps. And I always, even with uncontrollable stress, for example, or anxiety or whatever it might be, there's always stuff we can do. It's just a matter of working out, I guess, what works for you. Yeah. So if it's microbiome based, then we would go back to food. Yeah. Basically, we do have probiotics, but they're so varied in quality, and who knows what bugs you need. And many, in fact, aren't available in a probiotic form. So there's some, if I was going to do a microbiome testing on someone and they came back with really low, there's a bug called Akkermansia, we don't have that in a pill. Yeah. We need to feed that bug the food it needs to be strong. Yeah.
What is the food for this one?
Dragon fruit, red dragon fruit.
Oh, okay.
Cacao, raw cacao.
So interesting.
Yeah, and what those bugs need is a specific type of fibre. They need lots of things, but in particular, they need a specific type of fibre called a polyphenol, and you will not get any polyphenol from something like a psyllium husk.
Okay.
0. You can eat 3 kilos of psyllium husk, and your bowels will probably be not that happy, but it's not going to give you any polyphenols. So we're looking for those brightly coloured or dark coloured. Red capsicum, dragon fruit, those beautiful plant foods, mainly plant foods.
So when you hear eat the rainbow, it's very much along those kind of...
Absolutely, yeah. Wow. And different bugs need different things, and we are at the very precipice of knowing anything about this. It's just the beginning. Yeah.
So Obviously, you know, as you mentioned, you can go and get tested to have your microbiome tested, but for a lot of people, either they can't do that, they can't afford to do that. So would you advise the best thing is just to eat that rainbow diet, eat as many of those nutrient-rich foods as possible so that you're basically preventing anything from happening in the first place?
Not everybody, or I should, you know, just say not everybody, like as a disclaimer, needs to get their microbiome testing.
Yeah.
You can for sure, but it's not something that you have to go out and worry about and, you know, try and get done. The cost of it is coming down. So instead of thousands of dollars, it's a couple of hundred now, which is awesome.
And where do you get it tested? Out of interest, I'm going to get mine for sure.
You get a good naturopath and you know, or a nutritionist, and you go and see them because you then need someone to interpret it. Because you can get that pages of stuff and just be like, what does this mean?
Makes no sense.
And that takes us some education, like from, you know, we don't come out of naturopathy learning, like knowing how to do that. That's taken time in our careers to do that as well, and extra learning and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And we'll probably have to continue because it's always changing. So, yes, you don't all need to go and get tested. You definitely can include all those beautiful fruits and veg and all that kind of stuff. And we advise you to aim for around 40 different coloured fruit and veg per week.
It's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot. Yeah. But you also don't want to go and do that tomorrow. Yeah. Because you won't be well.
And is that 40 different ones, like different types?
Yeah.
See, a carrot, you can't eat a carrot 4 times and go, that's 4.
No. Which it's fine, you can. But yeah, it just counts as one. Yeah. But you can actually make yourself a little bit sick too if you overdo it. Okay. So with fermented foods especially, fermented foods are awesome. You don't really know we have an idea of what bugs you get from fermented foods, different fermented foods, but we don't really know because it depends on that cabbage. For example, with sauerkraut, where it's grown, what it's touched, you know, as to what particular species of bugs it will have when you make it into a sauerkraut.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And so different countries will have different bugs, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
But if you overdo it, you will have what we call a die-off effect. So you'll eat all these beautiful things. You'll be kind of supporting your good bacteria and killing off some of the badder bacteria. Okay. And then your body will kind of respond in turn to that in a detox fashion.
So what would you advise? Is it kind of 1 week doing
slow and steady?
Just increasing it.
With kids who have had recurrent antibiotics, we start with the sauerkraut juice. Like it's just a half a teaspoon of the juice from a sauerkraut. So really, really slow. I have lots of people come in and be like, oh no, I can't take a probiotic. I've tried that and it was really bad. But that's because at the pharmacy, they're selling these 50, 60, 70 billion different, you know, with 11 or 12 or more different strains. And your body just flips out. It's like, whoa, what am I meant to do with all these bugs? When we think about the microbiome, we use the car park theory. So if you know, drive into like a big Westfield at Christmas time and there's no car parks, you've got to leave, right? Yeah. So if you're already full up, whether they be good or bad, but all the car spaces are taken, and then you put in, you know, I don't know, 50 billion new cars, your body's going to have a bit of a freak out. There's nowhere for those cars to park. There's going to be a traffic jam essentially, or in the case of the human body, it will be like an expulsion. So you tend to get sick, diarrhea, nausea, whatever. So the way, I mean, in the last few years for myself as a clinician, I've really gone back to a single strain probiotic. And the other factor is most of the probiotics that we've had traditionally come from a bovine source, so like a cow. Yeah. And your body can't colonize, the human body can't colonize that as well as it can a human strain. Okay. So we now have really cool probiotics that are single strain, that are human derived. And I think that's kind of the way forward for me until I get a good picture of what's going on inside. Okay. Because you don't want to overload.
No, totally. Yeah. So if people listening to this want to go out and get one of those, where do they get one of those? Because when I was in the chemist last week and I'd run out of my my Inner Health Plus one that I get, and I looked, and there was literally about 50 different brands, and I was confused, and I just said to the chemist, "Can you tell me which is the best one?" And they just said the one in the fridge. Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, I'll get that."
And see, that used to be the case 10 years ago, but we have come so far from the one in the fridge. The one in the fridge used to be the most stable, because we didn't know how to work out how to make them stable outside of refrigeration. Yeah, but even therein, there's issues like transport. Yeah. You know, and every time you open that bottle, those capsules are oxidized, you know, from the air. And then you've got now, like, there's lots of commercialness in this
Yes,
industry.
I can imagine.
There's lots of money.
Yes.
So a lot of them will have like, now we want them to be viable till expiry, not just viable when they tested them in the lab, I know 3 months ago, and then they've travelled and sat in the sun at the front of the chemist in a box till someone had time to unpack them back into the fridge. And
So true.
So we have shelf-stable ones, which, you know, is probably a better option. And something like what you just mentioned may or may not be human strained.
So which one should we get? Tell us, Mel. Tell us. Can you tell us?
Well, they're scripted.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like I don't know that there's any available commercially yet.
Okay. So so what we want is a single strain human source.
Yeah,
okay.
if you can get that. And most of the good ones are made from human breast milk.
Okay.
So they kind of, made them that way.
And is that through nutritionist or through doctor?
Naturopath.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nutritionist probably as well, but mainly your naturopath will be able to help. Yeah. The good thing about, you don't have to go and pay for a consult to get a probiotic. Lots of naturopathic clinics do acute care. Yeah. So you can walk in and say, hey, I'm looking for a good probiotic. They write your name down. Or we have to have notes legally. You know, we have to make sure that we're not giving you something that's going to affect other medication or make you sick. Or, we consider everything that we do to be just as important as medicine. Yeah. It's everything you put in your body will have an effect. And so we're really mindful of that. And so you can walk in just like you would to a chemist and get a blood pressure check. You can walk into most naturopathy clinics or call ahead and do acute care. Or the best place to kind of do that is probably a health food shop.
Yeah, okay.
Generally, a health food shop will have qualified naturopaths on the floor. Yeah. Most of them do. And so they'll be able to help. And
do they sell it there as well, the actual products?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure.
Oh,
but
fascinating.
There's a few, there's not just like one, but there's a few good human strain probiotics now, and they tend to be shelf stable, which is awesome.
Yeah, amazing. And you mentioned sauerkraut. Tell us how to make it. Is it simple?
Very simple, yeah. It's just cabbage and salt in your hands.
Yeah, that's it. Cabbage, salt in your hands.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh.
Fermented food was created, it was started to preserve, essentially. Okay. So it was before refrigeration. It was when there was an abundance of food, and people wanted to, say, with cabbage, for example, preserve the cabbage through the winter. And so they would create these ferments to make food last when nothing's really growing until next spring. So all it is preservation. And that could be it could be in the form of a pickle, it could be in the form of a ferment. Most countries outside of Australia and Vegemite, which is not a fermented food, have a national kind of ferment. Like, Japan and Korea, they have kimchi, and European countries have their different types of krauts. I think it's like in Denmark, they have a cheese that's sits on the table all the time. It's really stinky, but it's full of vitamin K, which a lot of Australians are K deficient. So we don't have that. And it's a big deal to try and teach people how to eat gross fermented food because they've never had it before, and our taste buds aren't adjusted to it. But all you do is cut up a cabbage. Yeah. If you can get an organic cabbage, great. The less pesticides and stuff we're going to be fermenting, the better. Yeah. If you can get it in season, even better, because in season food will not need as many pesticides and herbicides and all that kind of stuff. It grows happily and naturally within that season. So that's, most ideal. And then all you do is mash, put a bit of salt on your cabbage and start to massage it. Mm-hmm. And then you'll find that as you do that, that salt draws the liquid out of the cabbage, and you'll start to get this watery mess. And you can pick your cabbage up and squeeze it, and all this water will come out. Yeah. And then you shove it into a jar. Yeah. Sauerkraut is anaerobic, so it does not like air. Like kombucha is aerobic, loves air. You keep the lid off, you put a bit of paper towel, and the air circulates kombucha, scobies. Sauerkraut likes its lid on. Yeah. Clip lock jar with a rubber seal is best, so that you don't have an explosion. And you push it all down so that it's under the water that it has created. If you have a bit of a dud cup cabbage, it might not create enough water, so you can add a little bit of filtered water on top. But use a good quality salt, natural salt. Massage your cabbage, shove it in a jar, a little bit of liquid on top, and you can use one of the outside cabbage leaves as a lid to keep it all down, put a stone on top of it or whatever, clip lock jar, leave it.
How long?
It's up to you. You can go, for months. Sometimes we'll never put it back in. It depends on the weather as well. So the hotter it is, the quicker it will ferment.
Yeah.
As soon as you can taste it every day. And then as soon as you get to a nice, fermenty-ness that you like.
What is that? What is that fermentiness? Is it like a pickly thing, or is it?
Yeah, I guess it's pickly. To me, it's very like, I want to describe it as umami because it's like something I crave.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it's salty and it just hits the spot.
Amazing.
But it's fermented is a really good word for it because it does taste like a little bit like fart sometimes.
Oh my gosh, you're selling it to me.
Yes, but you develop a taste for it. And if you're a new fermenter, I would say ferment it less.
Okay.
Put it in the fridge earlier.
Yeah.
Because the more you let it go, the more farty it'll get.
And we're putting it in the fridge, right? We're not putting it...
Once you're happy with it, you can put it in the fridge to stall the fermentation. So,
Okay. So outside a fridge,
it will
and then when it's
continue to
done...
ferment.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you have some cool, awesome rock cave where you keep your ferments and they're stable.
And should it be red cabbage versus the white one?
Either. They will have different, every cabbage will have different stuff going on. Yeah. And obviously the red one's going to have a higher amount of probably antioxidants because it's red, that kind of thing. So they'll have different
incredible
goodness, I guess.
Fascinating. Thank you. I'm so going to try it. Now, with the gut, obviously we talked about the external factors. So, obviously stress, things we eat. And I'm guessing that all of those processed things with additives throw it off.
Yeah, for sure. That's any kind of processed food is going to affect probably the microbiome in a negative way because it doesn't communicate with our body in the same way that real food does.
Yeah.
So whether your body doesn't know quite what to do with it or it confuses, your hormones and your feedback and that kind of thing. Yeah, our body doesn't really know what to do with those man-made foods.
It's like an alien thing going into the body,
Absolutely.
right? And it's like, whoa, get out.
It's the same with like artificial sweeteners, It's it doesn't satiate you. It doesn't stabilize your blood sugar levels. It just confuses your body. It thinks, did we just have food?
Yeah.
Or did we not? What was that?
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? And it's such, when you talk about it, it's common sense. But as humans, we seem to be not that smart because we do it, don't we?
We're busier than ever.
Yeah.
And we spoke about stress before. We have stress on our circadian rhythm that we've never had before because we are constantly lit up. Electricity really has been probably a negative invention for the body. We don't know when to switch off. We've got our little phones in bed at night. So and then we expect to turn them off and close our eyes and go to sleep. But your body's like, well, hold on. Did the sun go down? Because I haven't had that cue. So we really have confused things. Yeah. Then because we're so busy and because we're lit up constantly, we have higher expectations. People are expected to have more output. And so we're working longer, we're working harder, so then we need convenience, and that's where the food comes in, the processed food.
Oh, we're in a sticky situation, aren't we?
A little bit.
We are. Now, tell me as well, because I've read a lot. I know you've mentioned before about the effect of if the gut isn't in a good place, the effect that can have on our mental health. Yeah. Talk to me about that. How does that correlate, and how does that
I think
happen?
that you cannot have good mental health without good gut health, unfortunately. So the microbiome, the amino acids, from the protein that come into our body, the way that food communicates with our body really determines how we create and stabilize our neurotransmitters. And the health of our brain overall as well. So one of the movements in the last 50 years is to eat less fat because fat makes us fat. But that's not the case. That is completely incorrect. So by having a fat-free or a low-fat diet for the last 50 years, we've done ourselves quite a disservice, I guess, in terms of brain health. Yeah, wow. And it's not the only factor. Yeah. But yeah, I think that we are seeing that in our younger generations. And
you mentioned that over the past 50 years there's been a push for eat less fat, fat-free and all this kind of stuff. Where did that come from?
I think it came from industry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think
As in a marketing thing, as in
Yeah.
like we're gonna create a problem that needs solving that
there
isn't a
may
problem.
have been a belief, because it is logical to think that fat would make you fat, and there may have been that belief to start with. I don't know, in food culture and diet culture, and diet culture is something that we could do a whole thing on its own, because diet culture is it's been created. Like if you look up diet in the dictionary, it doesn't say anything about weight. It's about food.
Yeah.
So diet culture has been created by, people trying to make money generally, and that has equated to, I guess, where we're at now with the beliefs in food, and our
it's
food
unbelievable.
culture.
So with if you're seeing a patient who is either struggling mentally, do you often go back straight? Let's look at the gut and see what's going on.
Always. Yeah, nearly always. So if we have someone with anxiety or depression or PTSD or anything like that, yes, there will be things that have occurred that have maybe triggered that.
Yeah.
There could be a genetic factor in terms of they're wired that way to some degree, but generally we can, I guess, enhance the brain health, the health of the brain, and provide the nutrients that are needed to create the neurotransmitters in a more balanced way. And we can do that with medication. We can do that with herbs. We can do that with food. We can do that with all of them as well. Lots of my patients are on medication, and that's okay as well.
Yeah.
Some people need that bit of extra support.
Yeah.
So, we can definitely do it. And nutrition's something that, as a naturopath, you always do. It's not like I do nutrition on the first appointment and never talk about it again, or I do it on the second appointment. That's when I do nutrition. It's just organic.
Yeah.
It nearly always comes up, and people will, people will always tell you what they're eating.
Yeah.
The thing with a naturopath is you spend time with someone.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference between me and a doctor.
Yeah.
Because I've done the same. I feel like I've done the same amount, quantity of study in a different thing, but we study pharmaceuticals and everything like that as well. But I think that the biggest difference is the time factor that you spend with people.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Now, what I would love to talk to you about is that obviously Sing Wellbeing, we're a huge fan of food as medicine, and that's why we're working with you so closely. And you've done for us a 4-week gut health program because obviously we've talked about this today, but the gut is so important, right? And food and what we're putting in the body has such a big impact on that.
Absolutely.
So can you talk to me about the food we're going to eat over this 4 weeks, why it's going to be great, what we can expect? And I guess that one of the questions would be, if you don't have, or you've not had a big focus on gut health for yourself before, what kind of outcome would you want to see with someone who follows a gut health actual meal plan? Sorry, lots of questions there.
Yeah. Do I start at the end or the start? Ooh.
Whatever you want.
I want people to poo. That's my. That's every single appointment. I'm talking about poo.
Yeah.
So that kind of is a really good indication of gut health. Do you poo every day?
Okay.
How many times do you poo? If you poo more than once, how many times is it? Because really, once, maybe twice is plenty.
Yeah.
But then, what is that poo like? Can we have a look at it? Is it sausage? Is it the kangaroo poo? Is it has it got mucus? Has it got blood? Just as a side note, I'm sending everyone on if you're over 25, I'm now sending you for a bowel kit because of the incidence of bowel cancer in our 30s in young people.
Wow.
So we really should be concentrating on the poo to tell us what our gut and our overall health is like. Can you see undigested food in that poo? Is it brown or is it green? I have seen green poos. And that's a really good sign that your liver's got something going on.
Okay.
So poo is what we want to be looking at for 4 weeks. Apart from the awesome food we're going to be eating, but we want to see what it's doing and how it's coming out, because that's just as important as it going in. We're focused on gut symptoms as well. So I don't really believe in IBS. Controversial, I know, but I think it's fixable. I think it's some kind of root cause that we can fix. That's just it just doesn't have a medication, so that's why it's become this syndrome. So is there bloating? Is there pain? Is it worse for the period or the different parts of the cycle for women? Are there headaches? All these things can relate back to the gut.
Okay.
Pain, inflammation.
So over this 4 weeks, if we follow the meal plan, we can expect to kind of, if you've got, periods which are tough, you're going to get better energy, health, mental wellness as well.
Definitely. I think reducing inflammation
Yeah.
overall systemically
Okay.
with good quality food can help with all of that. Down to like period pain itself, we as naturopaths, we never think that the period should be painful.
Yeah.
That bleed should not be painful unless there's some kind of
Yeah.
disorder that we need to
Yeah.
address. Yeah, so we're reducing systemic inflammation by reducing inflammation in the gut, by providing the gut with the foods that it needs to create these awesome metabolites or byproducts called short-chain fatty acids. So if we give the microbiome what it needs to eat, which is essentially your prebiotics, prebiotics are just food that your probiotics need, where we're then gonna allow those bugs, the microbiome to create the postbiotics, which are going to go and have effects throughout the body, systemic effects. So they're going to be anti-inflammatory to the brain. They're going to be anti-inflammatory to everywhere in the body, essentially. Not just within the gut. It's not like you do all this work here and it stays there and doesn't have a flow-on effect. Yeah, for
amazing.
sure.
Incredible. Well, I'm so excited about it because I think that, I haven't seen anywhere a meal plan created dedicated to gut health. So I'm really happy that we've been able to, to create one, because I think it's going to, A, educate a lot of people, but B, we're all going to learn about what is a better food, right? Because I think that's the big thing. And what I'm passionate about is not just learning something for 4 weeks and then going back, but hopefully that will change behaviours ongoing, because when you know about what it's doing for you, I believe psychologically you're more inclined to keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm very excited. It's going to be great. And is there any, just to finish up, is there any, like, say, 5 foods, or I don't want to say 5 because I haven't asked you to do it, but is there 5 foods that you would say are great for gut health, and then a few foods that are a complete don't do it?
Oh, well, fermented foods, for one, are going to be awesome for your gut health. Any kind of, I think, like I do lean on my animal proteins quite a bit, but I don't overdo them. Yeah. So animal proteins will provide collagen and amino acids that are going to help heal your gut. Yeah. Provide amino acids, to heal, to help out with the microbiome as well. What else? I've put in this new one, I've put a lot of fennel. So I've gone back to
fennel.
I've gone back to kind of like, if we think of food as medicine, yes, all whole real food, all that kind of stuff. But if you go back to tradition, like fennel's something that was eaten as a post-meal digestive. Yeah. You can have fennel tea. Some people just chew on fennel seeds. That's something that is a really good. We use it medicinally in like a tonic, when we make up little herbal tinctures. We use fennel to stop stagnation. So it moves the food through, not that you're going to poo yourself, but just that it moves it through so that it doesn't sit and stagnate. And then what often happens with stagnation is bloating. Yeah. So we're looking to prevent that. So if you don't like fennel, there's a lot of fennel.
Can we swap something? Because I love fennel. Yeah, but I have friends that come over and I always put it in everything. They go, oh gosh, she's got the fennel everywhere. Yeah. And I'm like, I love it. It's so good.
Any herbs and spices are going to help, really. Like turmeric, lots. The thing with Indian cooking and that vegetarian kind of space is if you put lots of herbs and spices in, it's going to help with digestion. Yeah. And when some Westerners eat lots of vegetarian food, legumes and stuff like that, they do get a lot of bloating. It's because we aren't as good at digesting, or we don't know how to team those foods as well. Right. Lots of spices. I've got chili, I've got turmeric, I've got loads of ginger, which is your favourite.
My favourite.
Yeah. Lots of chamomile, and I've put in things like grapefruit and, papaya, things that have natural enzymes to help you digest. Yeah.
So if someone doesn't like fennel, is there something they can swap it for?
You can swap it for any vegetable, but it may not have the same digestive assistance. Yeah. But veggies are all going to provide those polyphenols that are going to feed the microbiome. Yeah. So they all have different benefits, I guess. Yeah. If you want a digestive food to swap for fennel, maybe you look at the papaya, which isn't going to be as savoury. Yeah. What else? We've got pineapple. Yeah, all those, the bromelains and the enzymes in there. Or add your spices and things like that.
Great. Yeah, fantastic. And from a, because I love fennel and pineapple equally, is either one of them better for digestion?
Well, they just do different things. Yeah, okay. So it's like your fermented foods all have different bacteria. Yeah, different foods will help you out with different parts because we have multiple different enzymes, you know, not just the bacteria. We also have our acid coming in, which is a component of this digestive system. So there's lots of different things that we want to be supporting, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic. And is there any kind of top foods that you just go, just don't, just don't?
Avoid?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably refined.
Yeah.
And that can be refined carbohydrates for sure. Like anything in a packet, I'd probably look to avoid. Any numbers, definitely your seed oils aren't great. But, you know, we spoke before about how food communicates with the body. So if it's not a real food, if you kind of turn it over and don't recognize the word, or it's got heaps of numbers, or you're just not really sure how it got in that packet. Like what happened to it?
What happened?
You know, I would recommend that everyone go and Google how margarine is made.
Yeah.
Because that video is disgusting.
Awful, isn't it? Yeah, I've seen that video. It's awful. Margarine's the worst.
Yeah, it's like grey sludge, and then we add colour to it. And so, we don't want to be eating those things that really don't resemble food anymore. They're not going to communicate with our gut very well.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I found this absolutely fascinating.
Oh, good.
I love it. And I think that for, you know, so many women, as well as men who probably watch this, it's just fascinating about the body, the gut, and how that kind of talks to the rest of the body, and how it is in our control to make better, right? And I think it's all about choices, right? And we were talking before about, you know, just educating yourself, even from just reading labels to see, because if we put something artificial in the body doesn't recognize it, and then it causes lots of problems.
Yeah, it can do,
on a superficial level. my explanation. But no, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. Been incredible, and I can't wait to
my pleasure.
To do the gut health meal plan. I think it's going to be amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mel.
Thanks.